message is full of psychological wisdom, metaphysical wisdom, truth, and so on. And as I remember, Arjuna doesn't want to fight because the ones he should have fought were cousins or something like that.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
Yeah. So he says, hey, why should I? And Lord Krishna starts telling him about the importance of doing things, about how it's sort of a discussion about free will, right? And basically, it's Carl Jung would say, and I think he said it actually, that Krishna and Arjuna are the self and the ego, sort of.
Yeah, but he doesn't have a proper interpretation, Carl Jung.
Okay.
Because it's actually a conversation between the soul and God. And
the soul being Arjuna and God being Krishna.
Yeah, it's basically it's a symbolism of the guru-disciple relationship, where God quite often manifests on earth, and he comes for the redemption of the souls. He comes to pull them out of this identification that with this body, this mind, they have to go to work Monday to Friday, and that all life is that we can see and perceive with our senses. And he's trying to get Arjuna to understand there's something much deeper that perhaps you haven't perceived yet, and that is the soul. And so he's getting Arjuna to understand you are not the mind and the body. You're not plagued with these desires. All these are the surface level of your being, and you need to look much deeper. And because he hasn't perceived that, he hasn't touched that, he's lost in this world. Like so many people are, they get lost and they don't know why they're here. What is their purpose? And so a lot of people ask themselves this question. Well, what am I doing? Who am I? Well, why do I have this job? Why am I stuck in life in this way?
But we cannot find out who we are, right? Because in Bhagavad Gita, as in the Bible, when Arjuna asks God to show himself, sort of. I mean, he's telling Krishna at one point, I remember, he's telling him, but I want to see you in your plenitude, in your whole being. And he said, hey, are you sure, sort of? It's what Moses got from God as an answer when he said, hey, but I want to see you. I'm not going to enter Israel, but I want to see you. And he said, okay, just cover your eyes and I'm going to show you a small part of myself. And it was terrifying. And the same thing happens here when Krishna shows himself to Arjuna, and I remember the image. Millions of eyes, millions of mouths, shouting and so on. And he says that sentence that I think the inventor of the atomic bomb said, now I have become death, the destroyer of all worlds, or something like that. That's from Bhagavad Gita, I can remember. So that's nice because God is infinite. We cannot know him, right? But we know he's there and we can search for him.
Yeah, I mean, in the Bhagavad Gita, it's very interesting because there's three different aspects to God. There's God in his formless aspect, where his presence pervades everything. It literally pervades everything, all creation, all universes. But then you have the soul, which is a little, let's say, it's like a spark from the fire. It has all the qualities of the fire, the hotness, the light. But it's just a little spark. You couldn't say the spark is the fire itself. So that's the soul. But then within the heart of each being, you have Paramatma, which is God. Wherever the soul goes, through all of its incarnations, God is like, he's the traveler with the soul, as it can actually be perceived inside of one's being. Through meditation, when you can cease the activity of the mind or the desires, through meditation, you can actually perceive God within your own being. And
it's not the soul.
It's not the soul. It's something different. Okay. Yeah.
But they are overlapping somehow, right?
They're very much connected, yes.
Connected.
Yeah. And then beyond that, you also have Bhagavan. So Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavad means Lord or God, and Gita means song. So it's the song of God. And basically, God is telling Arjuna, his cousin, his disciple, how to reach him. And of course, like you say, he gives him just a little fraction of a glimpse of his true self. But this fraction is everything that holds and sustains this universe and destroys this universe. because this universe is one of many.
I mean, it destroys it to
recreate.
To recreate again and again, right? It's the robotic.
Yeah, because the souls come
principle.
the souls come into this universe to experience everything, every form of limitation, sick, rich, late, healthy, all forms of limitation that we have. But then eventually the purpose of the soul is not to stay here, to be bound in this universe. It's to transcend it and return to where it came from.
Those things can be seen in meditation. If you meditate long enough and renounce your ego long enough, can your masters or yourself, do you see this?
I have a Sadguru, his name is Paramahamsa Vishwananda, and he travels around the world. And he gives
with the bike, right? Is that him?
No.
Oh, no. Okay.
So Paramahamsa Vishwananda, he's a God-realized master. When he was born, he was very, very different. When he was growing up in Mauritius, he moved to Europe when he was about 18, 19. And he's been spreading his mission throughout the world. And so as a result of this, he gives darshan. Many people come to meet him. And one of the things that he does is when people come to receive darshan, he enables them to put aside the identification perhaps with the mind, the body, the senses, and he enables them to perceive that divine love inside of their own being, like that love that radiates from the soul. The soul is like the lights that you have in the office here. It radiates light continuously, well, when they're on. The soul is radiating many divine qualities continuously. And during darshan, many people have experienced the qualities of the soul. And in meditation, he's given me a glimpse of what the soul is. We had a silent retreat many years ago, and I was sitting in meditation, and the mind was completely still. Suddenly, there was just the witnessing, and the witnessing was perceiving this source of light, and from this light source, there was so much light radiating, and in these qualities of light, there was an incredible love, much greater than any love that you can have for people. I've had different types of relationships in my past before I become a monk, good relationships, terrible relationships, the love of your life. But this kind of love is completely different. And also,
they're usually Satan in the end. The love of your life, especially the first one, usually. I mean, I've heard some people getting lucky with that, but yeah. But it's also an angel that helps you understand things and understand limitations, right?
Yeah, because the soul comes into this universe to experience limitation, all types of love.
And overcome limitation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because this is the first 6 chapters of the Gita. Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna how to overcome limitation so that he can perceive the soul, the divinity inside of himself. But many of us don't, because we're so trapped up in, day-to-day stuff, family relationships, how much money we got in the bank account, so many things like this on a daily basis. We don't have the time to really sit and quiet the mind and really perceive that divinity inside.
I'm also a clinical psychologist, and I'm not sure about staying there in meditation, in retreats, to stay with your deepest layers. I'm not sure about that, but as a psychologist, I know that if you don't connect to your deeper selves, even if you still live your mundane life and day-by-day life, but if you don't connect, you have sort of a cosmic anxiety. You don't know what you're doing on Earth. So you have to tell yourself a story. It better be true, but you never know for sure. You tell yourself a story about your meaning, your cosmic meaning, sort of, your metaphysical meaning in life. And then this anxiety diminishes. Is that right?
I think a lot of people need to have an understanding in their minds. Where do we come from? What's the purpose of everything? And what's my part? And that's exactly what I had that drive from very young. Where does life begin and where does it finish? When I went to university, I studied biochemistry. I was expecting my professors to give me the answer. I left and I was disappointed.
Yeah.
Because people were looking for that ultimate meaning. And where do I fit in? within the Gita, it gives a very, very broad understanding of the universe and the purpose to life. And for myself, having gone through, science, a lot of spirituality, different aspects, having this understanding from the Gita has really, really helped me to understand my part in life and the flow of life and the purpose of life.
Can you doubt the Bhagavad Gita? I mean, when I read it, I always think if this particular idea is okay, if I'm okay with it, if I perceive it as an ultimate truth or not, and so on. Do you ever doubt it, or do you think it's perfect?
Now let's just look at that, because you can pick up so many different Bhagavad Gitas. In the Hindu tradition, we've got so many different spiritual cultures, let's say, that have a different perspective on God. And you can pick up 5 different Gitas and it's interpreted in different ways. It's like in the Christian tradition. You have Orthodoxy, you've got the Catholic Church, and then you've got the various denominations in Christianity that have different idea about what our relationship to God is and whether we should pray to saints, not pray to saints, just pray to Jesus, pray to Mother Mary, whether we should have icons, no icons, all these things. And in the same way in Hinduism, there's many different denominations. And so when you pick up the Gita, you will not necessarily get the same interpretation. Now, this Bhagavad Gita, the essential Bhagavad Gita that our Guru's given, Paramahamsa Vishwananda, because he's got that state of consciousness where he's able to perceive anything and everything wherever and whenever he wishes. He's able to give that experience of the soul. And so he's given a very short, very easy to understand description of the Gita and an interpretation of the Gita. So there's not too much room to be able to misunderstand it, because some of the Gitas are totally poetic and you think, what does that mean? I've got no clue. But this is really, feet on the ground, very easy to understand. For me, there is no doubt in that, because of the experiences that he's given me and thousands of people around the world about that experience of divinity and experiences of God.
Some people, in my experience, laugh about things like this. We make fun sometimes of things like this, of eternity, soul. Now talking to you, I feel like we can have a dialogue about this, and it suddenly gets very important for me. It's always important for me. Eternity, God, searching for God, the infinite is very important, and I'm so thankful that I had some experiences, visions, I might say, in life that enabled me to know that there is God. I never doubt it. I don't know how God is in his
ultimate form,
ultimate knowable form, sensible form, whatever. But I know he is. So these things are beautiful. What do you say about? Would you answer to people who right now are listening and saying, "Oh, come on, this is BS. He doesn't have to pay rent. He lives in an ashram and so on." What would you say?
Well, if you believe in love, but the question is, what kind of love do you believe in? Everybody, I believe, believes in love and they're looking for love. But the question is, what kind of love are you looking for? And there is an incredible love inside each and every person, but it just takes the time and the patience to look for it sincerely. But if you can let's say you can take a shortcut. If you meet a God-realized master who can, let's say, put you on the fast track to experiencing that divinity inside of you, it's well worth seeking out and finding that. Our spiritual master gives an online darshan, like through Zoom. You can sit in your own home. You don't have to travel anywhere, don't have to book any tickets, and just receive an online darshan.
Nice.
And in that way, a lot of people have experienced that divinity inside.
Some people would swear that they experience infinity on drugs. What would you say about that? Do they help? Because I'm sorry, there are some old rituals and books and so on about stepping into infinity in yourself with the help of LSD and mushrooms and so on. How much truth is there?
There is
in this?
within taking things like this, like taking drugs or chemicals into the system, it has an impact on the consciousness, and people can perceive in that altered states of reality because it changes the chemistry within the brain. But it's not long lasting. It comes and it goes. And this is the whole purpose of the spiritual path: is you want something lasting. Like it's like perhaps falling in love. You have the honeymoon. Once the honeymoon's finished, you think, oh my God, yeah, okay, rest of our lives, maybe. Yeah. And but you want that love to stay. You want that experience to stay. And this is the thing. It's this is a synthetic way of trying to reach what you're really looking for.
Where would you start? This is a question from one of our listeners. Where do you start finding yourself? How do you start?
As I said, the most important thing is to seek out a God-realized master if you can. Because they can see, when they look at you, they see your present, they see all your previous incarnations. They know exactly what's your next step that you need to take in life. A lot of people have many questions about where I am, what am I doing?
What's the lesson this time?
What's the lesson, exactly. And what do I need to do to find myself? A lot of people have a lot of different life experiences, and not, everybody's got a different path in life, essentially. But a God-realized master can put you exactly in the right place and show you the technique that's required for you to help you find yourself the quickest and the easiest way.
Okay, we'll be back in a couple of seconds. Okay? Oana, o să te întreb și pe tine când ne întoarcem, te rog să ne povestești despre eveniment în sine și cum s-a ajuns aici și de ce a fost nevoie de încă o versiune de Bhagavad Gita, deși în mare am început să înțeleg. Bună dimineața!
Disney Plus ți-a pregătit mai mult decât ți-ai putea imagina. De la misterele magiei.
Hola, casita.
La magie fără mistere.
Orice emoție puternică va elibera ursul panda.
De la supereroi.
I am Iron Man.
La eroi ai scandalurilor.
That's Pamela Anderson.
Disney Plus. Mai mult decât ți-ai putea imagina. Disponibil la 29,99 lei pe lună. Consultați disneyplus.com pentru termenii abonamentului.
De fiecare dată când urci în mașină, simți chemarea vacanței.
Până pe 31 august, la Renault Service, ai reduceri de cel puțin 20% la filtre, amortizoare, ștergătoare și elemente de frânare pentru mașini cu vechimea mai mare de 4 ani. Călătorește în siguranță spre noi destinații. Ofertă supusă unor condiții valabile în limita stocului disponibil. Detalii la reparatorii autorizați Renault, organizatori ai campaniei și pe Renault.ro.
Renault.
Cum te faci remarcat în vara aceasta? Vii în Buzz Sneaker Station și îți alegi outfitul urban preferat dintre mii de articole de încălțăminte, îmbrăcăminte și accesorii pe toate stilurile. Retro, clasic sau actual, toate super fresh. Lasă-te inspirat de oferta noastră în magazine sau pe buzzsneakers.ro și bucură-te de reducerile de vară de până la 40%. Buzz. Be epic. Wear sneakers.
Pentru a nu mai fi bătrâni, jucați uman real cu elevi adevărați de liceu. Miercuri de la 8 la 9 seara.
Lumea bună se adună la Radio Guerrilla.
El universo entero, escucha!
Festivalul al cărui line-up arată ca playlistul tău revine la domeniul știrbei în perioada 12-14 august. A 11-a ediție de Numărul îi aduce pentru prima dată în România pe Arctic Monkeys, alături de un mix muzical fresh din care mai fac parte Nothing But Thieves, Future Islands, Jungle, Flight Facilities, Gold Link și mulți alții. Bilete pe summerwell.ro. Summerwell este un festival Orange.
Păi și ne-am întors, bună dimineața, cu Swami Anashuya și cu Oana Marinovici. Oana, cum a pornit? Și organizarea evenimentului de diseară, care va fi la 17 la Teatrul Elisabeta, și lansarea cărții și traducerea cărții în sine și așa mai departe, și cu comentariile aferente.
Povestea este lungă în sine. Bhakti Marga România este o prezență în țară de peste, cel puțin din 2017. Noi suntem la a doua versiune de Bhagavad Gita. Dar cu ce se deosebește această carte, prin ce se deosebește, este prin aceea că are comentariile maestrului Paramahamsa Vishwananda și aceasta reprezintă un ghid însăși așa cum vorbea și Swami Anashuya, pentru a putea aplica valorile din Bhagavad Gita și a trăi acele experiențe, deci fiecare își trăiește experiența unică în viața de zi cu zi, pentru că așa este, cu toții suntem prinși în rutina zilnică și este foarte greu la un moment dat să tragi o linie și să zici, gata, de astăzi o să stau o oră în meditație zilnic. Dar Bhagavad Gita tocmai asta oferă prin învățăturile și comentariile lui Paramahamsa Vishwananda, un ghid zilnic prin care dacă aplici și citind un verset pe zi, asta te ajută foarte, foarte mult în provocările care vin spre tine în mod zilnic. Iar acest eveniment este un eveniment de lansare a cărții. Cartea am reușit să o traducem după luni de zile de muncă.
E tradusă direct din sanscrită, partea de Gita, sau?
Este o traducere a traducerii făcute de Paramahamsa Vishwananda din limba
engleză.
Da.
Există tradusă direct în română, din sanscrită direct. Am o versiune și o să fiu foarte curios să văd o altă traducere. Nice.
Da, este un proces în sine, adică a fost o muncă de echipă ca să putem ajunge la rezultatul finit și este foarte interesant că fiecare din cei care au participat la această traducere, fiecare a avut experiențele proprii și a trecut printr-un proces interior separat.
Citesc un pic dintr-un comentariu, deci de după o porțiune din Bhagavad Gita, un comentariu ca să asculte lumea, să audă un pic cam în ce sens sunt făcute comentariile. Când cineva, deci este un verset și după aceea, când cineva devine spiritual, intră în inimă și percepe divinitatea din interior. Corpul devine un templu, te afli față în față cu Dumnezeu, aici în interior curg râurile Ganga, Yamuna și Sarasvati. Trupul tău este un loc al solitudinii, este acest munte, această natură minunată. Când un Bhakta. Când un Bhakta percepe această frumusețe din interior și intră în această stare de calm din interiorul corpului, el percepe cum cele trei râuri curg înăuntru lui, în această stare de calm absolut, toți microbii, bolile sunt depărtate de trup, tot felul de explicații de genul ăsta.
Da, deci de aia este efectiv un ghid pe care poți să-l folosești în fiecare zi și dacă ai nevoie să meditezi asupra unei probleme sau pur și simplu o deschizi într-un mod întâmplător și o să vezi că nu mică ți este, să zicem, mirarea că vei găsi răspunsul la problemă sau la frământarea pe care o ai.
Adică se întâmplă să dai exact peste versetul de care ai nevoie.
Exact.
Păi n-a zis Dumnezeu exact că vine exact ce trebuie. God said that we get what we need, right?
Yeah. If we keep focusing on what we want, we will get a lot of that. But if you focus on God, then you'll get Him.
Get what you need.
God will give you. Yeah, I mean, what happens in life? Nature is so intelligent. It's so wonderful, and often nature will give you exactly what's needed, and nature will bring you eventually to receiving the highest, the supreme.
I remember the book discussing some very deep philosophical questions, theosophical questions. And that is, if you don't know if what you're doing is right or wrong, you basically could say, look, everything is done with the will of God. So if I'm doing something, it's what God wants. So nothing I do can be wrong. Which brings us in a sort of trap, because then I can do anything, and I'm totally free to do anything, because this is what God wants, so I can, I don't know, start a war or whatever. So how do we get out of this trap?
Well, this is, let's say, God gives us the capacity to experience anything and everything. But the question is that ultimately beneficial for us? You see, in Hinduism, we have this understanding that the soul can incarnate, and it does incarnate 8.4 million lives before we become humans. And then we have at least...
I was feeling old before listening to that.
Sorry, I didn't help you there. So the problem is that we really incarnate more than 100,000 human incarnations before we really start coming into a spiritual path. And we've pretty much experienced a lot. Yeah. So maybe you've been a DJ in previous lives, Mike.
Yeah.
So to answer your question,
a stone platan.
Back in the prehistoric years.
Mixing board.
So
yeah.
the thing is that we have the capacity to really experience anything and everything, but is that beneficial for us? And within Hinduism, there is this understanding of Dharma, of righteousness. And it gives a very clear kind of like set ideas of Dharma. But righteousness is very specific for the culture and the times. Because, you know, we're not the same, civilization's not the same it was 100 years ago or 50 years ago. Everything's changing so quickly. And so what could be considered righteous, let's say 100 years ago, has changed for the circumstances nowadays. So we have to keep up with, you know, modern society, what's happening. Yeah.
Yep. And that's hard sometimes because it's, for example, being a man in the Western world right now is crazy puzzling. Men don't know what is being asked of them to do and to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well, both ways, men and women. All the
women, women want to be men, so it's easy.
Some men want to be women.
Some men want to be women. What do men who want to be men want to be like? That's the question in the Western Hemisphere.
Yeah, I understand you. I mean, ultimately, we have a lot of people coming to meet Paramahamsa Vishwananda, and they are, let's say, that maybe men as women or women as men, and he says, look, you also have to go beyond that. If you want to perceive the divinity of yourself, start looking on the surface. Mm. Just at the skin level. You have to look much deeper than this. And this is where the real clarity begins to come, when people start perceiving the divinity inside of themselves. Then you start realizing, oh, I've just been playing this game life after life after life.
A lot of people are surprised to hear that God is not man. God is not a man.
God is everything.
God is everything. He's a woman, he's a man, he's everything.
Yeah, the highest quality of himself is God is love. Even Christ said that, you know, God is love. Yeah. But have we perceived that love?
Have we perceived all that love? Because we're just...
It's absolutely mind-blowing, because the mind can't contain that, but your heart can. Your heart, it knows what that is. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here and reminding us that this discussion is a very important discussion we should have among ourselves. Not in a trivial way, not drinking beer, probably, and within ourselves.
Yeah, it's
the discussion between Arjuna and Krishna is a discussion between ourselves, right?
Yeah,
in ourselves.
Discussion between ourselves and the divine.
Yep. Thank you so much, Swami Anashuya. Oana Marinovici, mulțumim foarte mult încă o dată, vă zic. Diseară la 17 la Teatrul Elisabeta este evenimentul de lansare a cărții Bhagavad Gita, Esența din Bhagavad Gita, cu comentariile. Și să iasă bine. Și unde mai poate să intre lumea, să aveți vreun site sau așa să vadă?
Da, este site-ul Bhakti Marga.
Bhakti cu B,
H și
A,
cu
K, T, I.
Da. bhaktimarga.ro. Și
Bhakti Marga? Ok.
Acolo se pot găsi mai multe informații și despre ceea ce mai oferim ca și instrumente, yoga și meditație, arte și mult mai multe altele din învățăturile date de Paramahamsa Vishwananda.
Mulțumim foarte mult de vizită.
Mulțumim.
9:50 de minute, ne întoarcem în câteva zeci de secunde.